Elite Facts presents
10 creatures of Scandinavian folklore.
10.
Fossagrimmen. The Fossagrimmen is a water creature whose name translates to waterfall and is simply referred to by most as Grim. He's a young, handsome man who sits under waterfalls and spends his time playing the fiddle. He's said to play the music of nature itself, as he creates the sound of the water and the wind in the trees. It all comes from his music. He's said to teach humans how to play if they secretly bring him a stolen piece of meat. Torgeir Ågenson, better known as Meilargutin, was a famous fiddle player from Telemark, Norway, who was so good that rumors started to circulate that he had sold his soul in exchange for Fossagrimmen's fiddle skills.
9.
Kraken. The Kraken is probably the most well-known and most recognizable Scandinavian folklore beast in media, as it's been used in several movies, including Pirates of the Caribbean and Clash of the Titans. Despite the popular belief that this creature was something fabricated by Hollywood, the Kraken belongs in the cold Norwegian Sea, where it was first said to have been seen in the early 1700s. The first detailed description was made by the Danish writer Erik Pontoppidan. The description he provided in 1752 states that, quote, "In old times the Kraken was said to be in the shape of a huge crab, the size of an island, and many sailors and fishermen found themselves stranded on an island that had not been there minutes before." Later descriptions describe the beast as how we picture it today, a monster in the shape of an enormous octopus that drags ships down to the bottom of the sea.
8.
Knockin. The Knockin is a mysterious water creature, much like the Fossagrimmen, known to reside in freshwater, lakes, and deep ponds. He is described as a dark monster with its eyes kept just above the surface of the water as he watches people walking by. In Swedish tradition, the Knockin is said to be a handsome young man who tricks women who are attracted to him into jumping into the water just so he can drown them. He's also been known to be a shapeshifter and can change into a white horse, letting young children ride on his back before once again taking them back to the water so he can drown them. Much like the Fossagrimmen, the Knockin is also said to be a talented musician, playing the violin so that the villagers can hear him at night.
7.
Draugen. Draugen, translated from the Norse word draugr, means ghost. This creature is also a water creature, and certainly something that you wouldn't want to run into. The Draugen is said to be the ghost of a man who died at sea, but it takes on the appearance of something more huge and monster-like. It's said to be covered in seaweed and is always seen rowing in half a boat. The Draugen erupts a terrible scream when he appears, and legend has it that it can be seen during stormy nights at sea, drowning sailors and fishermen and sinking their boats and ships. There was actually a story of a man who said he ran from Draugen and decided to hide in a churchyard, where he shouted for the spirits of the dead to protect him. Oddly enough, the day after this, all of the graves in the churchyard were open, and the whole yard was covered in seaweed. It's freaky stuff.
6.
Pesta. The Black Death ravaged Europe for many years and was a tragedy for all of the Scandinavian countries in particular, as it was reported that Denmark lost 1/3 of its population, while Norway lost almost half of theirs. The plague was so devastating that it didn't take long for people to make a character out of it. Pesta is said to be a creature of death and illness that takes the form of a hideous old woman dressed in black who carries a broom and a rake. The name Pesta is said to be a shortened down version of Pestilence, who was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It was said that she traveled from farm to farm spreading the plague. It was also said that if she carried with her the rake, some of the inhabitants would survive, but if she was carrying the broom, everyone in the family would soon die.
5.
Trolls. Trolls come from Norse mythology and were inspired by the giants named Jotnar, Jotunr, and Jotun, who all lived in the mountains of Utgard and were known as the main enemies of the gods. It's said that the creatures have a human-like appearance while maintaining their large size, but that they are also incredibly hideous. In the old tales, there were trolls of all kinds, some living in the high mountains, some in deep forests, and even some by the shores surrounding the country. It wasn't until the arrival of Christianity around the 1300s that the stories changed. It was said that trolls had the ability to smell the blood of Christian men and were said to pretty much stand for anything and everything that the Christian religion condemned.
4.
Mare. The mare is a female vet who is said to give people bad dreams at night by sitting on their bed while giving them the most piercing stare you could imagine as they sleep. She is a common belief in Germanic folklore and appears in many different shapes. The Scandinavian words for nightmare are Mareritt in Norwegian, Mererid in Danish, and Mardrome in Swedish. These all directly translated mean mare ride and mare dream.
3,
Nis. It is said that the Nis are actually still very important in modern society because in the Scandinavian Christmas tradition, there's no Santa. Instead, each person has their own Nis who lives in the barn. As you'd expect, this is only limited to people who are farmers or are located in the countryside. The Nis acts like a guardian for the household, and these creatures are typical pranksters, but can easily be befriended. And around Christmas, they have the same function as Santa does in Western traditions.
2,
Elves and Dwarfs. Although very popular in films such as Snow White and any J.R.R. Tolkien Lord of the Rings adaptation, the dwarves and the elves originated from Norse mythology. The dwarves lived in their own part of Midgard, said to be a place no human could find or access. They were small people, often pictured as little men with long beards, who were master smiths and made the swords, shields, and armor for the gods themselves. The elves, on the other hand, lived in a deep forest near the castle of Frøy, the god of fertility, called Alfheim. These elves were said to be fair and beautiful, as they were commonly seen as peaceful creatures.
1,
Thor. Way before all the comic books and all the films were released, Thor was the mighty hammer-wielding god of thunder and lightning, a symbol of strength and a protector of mankind. In contrast to popular belief, the original incarnation of Thor is said to have had flashing eyes and a fierce red beard, and he was husband to the goddess Sif. Other than his appearance, his background is almost the same as his character from modern pop culture. He's the son of Odin and was entrusted with Mjolnir, a hammer that was the source of his mighty power. His ability to wield thunder was part of his popularity with the people, as it was believed thunder would frighten away evil trolls. Marvel certainly chose a good myth to base a character on, that's for sure.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.